Hey guys, it's Jenna. Welcome back to my channel. Today I thought I would share with you guys the most intimidating books that I have on my shelves. And a lot of these are honestly just intimidating to me because they're long, but I figured it might be a fun video to make. A little while ago, April over at Getting Hugga With It made a similar video, and it motivated me to take a second look at some of these books that I still have on my shelf that I have not picked up yet because they're either intimidating by subject matter or genre, or most often the length of them. So let's just get started. I have 6 books to share with you. And the first book that I find to be intimidating is The Hunchback of Notre Dame by Victor Hugo. And it's very long. I've heard that it is an epic story. Honestly, I don't know too much about it other than what I know from the Disney movie that I absolutely loved in my childhood. And that's honestly why I picked up this edition, because it's beautiful and you can see, I think I've shown you guys this tons of times, but you can see the animated characters from the Disney films on the end papers. So that's honestly why I picked this up at a used bookstore a few years ago. But I find this one to be intimidating mostly by the length, and it's a classic, and I just feel like it's gonna take me a while to get through. And when I feel that way about a book, I honestly tend to put it off because I'd much rather read a quick thriller or a contemporary than get into something long and epic that I know is gonna take me a long time to get through, but I just have to be in the mood. The next one is also by Victor Hugo, and I'm not gonna attempt to pronounce the way that it's supposed to be pronounced in French, but it's Les Mis, and it's huge, you guys. It's 1,200 pages. It's huge, and basically it's the same reasons as I'm intimidated by The Hunchback of Notre Dame, is that it is a classic, it's epically long, and I am, again, familiar with the story because I love the musical and I love the movie adaptation that came out a few years ago with Hugh Jackman. So I feel like I'm going to love it, but I've had this on my shelf for a while, and I've considered unhauling it a few times just by the sheer size of it. I picked it up at a used bookstore several years ago thinking that I was going to read it. I think I bought it like right after the movie came out because I was inspired to read it. We'll see if it actually happens in the future. But if you've read this and you love it, motivate me to read it because that may help a little bit. The next book that I have for you, again, is long. Let me see. Oh, it's not terribly long. It's almost 600 pages, still a chunker, and that is East of Eden by John Steinbeck. I haven't read any Steinbeck since high school when we read The Grapes of Wrath, right? Isn't that by Steinbeck? I feel ashamed that I'm questioning that. I feel like I should definitely know that. I'm pretty sure it's by the same guy. I'm pretty sure. Anyway, doubting myself for a moment there. Again, this is intimidating to me because it's long, and I've also heard it's an epic story, and typically epic stories are long and a little bit tough to get into, but I've heard amazing things about his writing, and it's just one of those authors that I would love to have read more of, other than the required reading that I honestly didn't even finish in high school. So that's another one. Another one that is intimidating just because of the length, not even because of the genre or anything, is The Black Prism by Brent Weeks. I honestly have had this since February, I think, of this year, which I guess is not that long, but it's almost 700 pages, what with the appendix and everything. But this is the first in an epic high fantasy / sci-fi series that is very highly recommended by Reagan over at Peruse Project. She loves this series, so I ordered it mainly because of her, because I really trust her opinion when it comes to fantasy. But she made this sound just epically amazing, and it's a wonderful floppy paperback too, which I love. But I've just been putting it off because long fantasy books are just not on my radar right now. I mean, they are, I want to get to them, but I just keep putting them off, and it's the first in a really long series, and the past several months it's just been easier to get through shorter standalones and feeling like I'm accomplishing more than to start a really long series. But if you've read this and love this, again, please motivate me to read it, as well as for the rest of them too. The next book that I have is The Passage by Justin Cronin, and I've never seen this cover before. Like before I had picked it up in the bookstore, I almost didn't recognize it. But this is a post-apocalyptic story involving vampires somehow, and vampires, that word is one of my bookish buzzwords, so if you mention vampires, I'm going to be instantly interested. But again, I'm intimidated by this because of the size. It's almost, one second, it's like 750 pages. So if a book is almost 800 pages long, it's gonna take me a while to get to, just because I'm intimidated by the size. But then again, I've heard amazing things about this, but I've also heard mixed things as far as the pacing goes. Sorry, the mailman is dropping something off at the door, and I don't want him to hear me. Okay, we're back. So I've heard mixed things about this when it comes to the pacing. I've heard some people say that it's a little slow, which again kind of turns me off a little bit. But then again, I've heard some people say that it is really fast-paced and it's an adventure story. So we will see when I actually pick it up. But I am excited about that one for sure. And last but not least, this is a book that I have read partially in the past. I listened to the audiobook back in college, and I got about halfway through, and I really enjoyed it, but as you'll see when you see it, it's just very dense, and there's just a lot to it. And that book, beautiful copy, is The Silmarillion by J.R.R. Tolkien. If you're unfamiliar with Tolkien, this is kind of like it is the creation story of his world of Middle-earth, and it tells you the in-depth history of all of the characters, about how all of the different types of creatures came into being. It's really cool, and like I said, I tried reading it several years ago, but I wouldn't say I got bored, but I will say that this is very dense. And I would recommend reading like The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings first before you even try to get into this, because you won't know what's going on, even though this takes place well before, like thousands of years before The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. I would say don't try reading this until you've gotten into The Hobbit, The Lord of the Rings, and gotten into the world and the way he tells his stories. Because this is, like I said, it's very dense, and I don't know when I'm going to attempt to read it again. I really would like to, but we will see when that happens. But those are 6 of my most intimidating books that I have on my shelf. And if you have read any of these and you love them, please tell me all about your love for them, because I would love to be motivated to get to them. And I would also love to know some of your most intimidating books that you've either had on your shelf for a while, or just something that you've been putting off picking up because it's really long or for whatever reason. But I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe if you would like to see more bookish content from me. And I hope you guys are having a lovely day, and I'll see you next time. Bye.